talking about your blended family goals for the new year.
Family goals, the B goals.
So you would have, yeah.
I threw you off with B goals, didn't I?
Did.
It's like, wait a minute, what did you say?
Yes. I was going to say you just finished up celebrating the new year, but you could listen to this at any time, so it may not have just been the new year for you.
But regardless, it's coming out, so whether you hear this or not, it's powerful information that you can use in your blended family.
True.
There it is. So y'all stay tuned. It's going to be a good episode.
We are going to be talking today all about planning for this upcoming year. And we know that this is so very important in family in general, but specifically in a blended family, because we want to be very intentional on the things that we do. Because how many of you have said already, I know I have, things like, I can't believe this year's already over. Have you said that?
Oh, for sure. I think that's always and what's the other saying is like, I can't believe this New Year's here.
Yes,
so
we're like, oh my gosh,
both ways
where did 2021 go? Or I can't believe it's already 2022 that we're starting a new year. There's just all these things that it's just time flies by so quick.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah,
but I think it flies by even faster when you have kids. So
what's the saying? So I keep cutting you off. I'm like super pumped right now. Okay, but there's that saying that the days are long, but the years are short. And I feel like that is so true. And you don't really understand the whole grasp of that, I don't think, until your kids get to the age ours are, where the days did seem so long. Like the things that we were going through seemed like so long. But then you look back and 8 months have passed.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my goodness.
It does. It goes quick. So that's why it's important to goal set. And goal setting has never been a strong suit for me, but I've seen the power of importance. And so through that, we've learned how to better goal set and what that looks like for each one of us, because it can look a little different, but the process is the same, is being able to goal set. Because you look at businesses. Businesses are successful because they plan ahead. They know exactly where they want to be, or they have a goal, they have a target that they're shooting for, and they normally set goals every quarter and then every year. So they look ahead before the year starts and says, okay, by the end of March, the beginning of April, this is what's going to happen here. And they plan it out, and then they have ways of measuring that. But that's the way businesses use to create success, to create that forward momentum. So I like to look at it as, if a business sees that much importance to it, to bring a body of people together so that everyone's on the same page, moving forward with the same vision, how important is that for us to do with our family?
That's
and
so true.
Especially in a blended family, because in a blended family, we can get pulled even further apart more than a nuclear family, because now we do have co-parenting. We have our kids going to different places, time split, things of that nature. So how much more important is it to really stay focused on, where do we want our family to go? Where's our family at? Where do we want our family to go? How can we measure that? What does that look like? Because I always fall back to the famous Zig Ziglar quote. I love it. I think I said this one last time, but it always stuck with me whenever I heard it. But if you aim for nothing, you always hit it. And I know in my life, my younger years, I never had goals set. I never aimed at anything, and I never hit anything. I just kind of went with the wind of life, and just allowed other people and things, places, jobs to dictate my life and the course of it, or my family. And it wasn't until I learned later, we can take that control. We can actually, if we're not liking what we're seeing in our family, in our blended family, we have the power to be able to change that. But it takes being intentional and goal setting. But it reminds me of a story. This is a story.
Reminds me of a musical number.
It reminds me of a musical. Let me share a song with you. And this where in a musical number they would bust out in song. But I won't do that. I'll spare you that.
No, he actually does if you're watching on YouTube. Just kidding.
I do like to bust out in song, but that's just one of my little weird quirks. But this one story, one person that we had heard this from was Dean Graziosi. He shares many stories, and we've heard stories from many different people on this topic of focus. But one story that I relate to, because I've been whitewater rafting before up in Colorado, and we kind of had the Hey, yeah, we had the pleasure to kind of take some of our family, youth groups, things like that, and do that. But the story goes that this one instructor was teaching before you go whitewater rafting, you all have to sit beside your raft, and the instructor gives you instructions outside of the water. That way, when you get in the water, you know what you're doing. You feel more equipped and less scared to actually go whitewater rafting. And so the instructor will sit there and guide you through it and say, okay, everyone's going to paddle like this, and this side's going to paddle this way, that side's going to paddle, and just kind of walk you through all of that. And this one instructor one time had said, whenever I say look this way and paddle that way, that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to focus on anything else. I want you to look in that direction, and I want you to paddle with all your might. And they said, so whenever we get into situations like that, I'm going to tell you that, and this is what you do. And so they did that and had a successful trip. And at the end, they started talking with some of the leaders and stuff, and had kind of shared that before he would teach it differently. Because when you're whitewater rafting, there's all kinds of obstacles that get in your way. There's these big rocks that, as a raft, you do not want to hit because they will flip you. And we've actually witnessed a group that was right ahead of us. They hit one of these big rocks, and it tumped all of them over. And now they're in this rapid water, and people are trying to grab them out and pull them out. And this was teenagers, kids, and everything else along with it. So that's the power of where they're
It can
at,
be scary.
and just the obstacles that are in your way. And the instructor had said that he learned before, he used to teach people to look at the rock and try to paddle so that you didn't hit it. And he said almost all the time we would hit the rock. And he said, it wasn't until I learned that where you focus at is where you go. So I started instructing people not to look at the obstacle or the rock, but to look at where you want to go. And whenever you started doing that, when he started instructing his team to do that, that was in the raft, it was a successful every time. They would always go away. They might be 6 inches away from hitting that rock that could tip them, but no one ever saw it because they weren't looking at it. They steered clear of it because they knew where they were going, and that's where they went. So the power of that is just where your energy flows is where your focus goes, or where your focus is, that's where your energy is going to follow, right? And that's so powerful in a family, especially a blended family, because we always tend to want to look at the problem. And when we look at the problem, when we focus on the problems, maybe it's our relationship, our marriage isn't good like we want it to be, or my stepkid's treating me this way, and our relationship, I don't think it will ever be successful or the way I want it, or my biological kid's struggling so bad they're never going to get out of that. We're just having all these blended family issues, and you can fill in the blank with the different dynamics of a blended family, but it all falls the same. If we continue focusing on the problem, you're going to continuously see that problem. It's always going to be there. It's until we shift our focus and focus on the solution, where do we want to go, that's where you'll start seeing more of the blessings, and you'll start seeing more of the blending happening in your family.
Yeah, I just love that analogy. The first time I heard it, and even when you're saying it now, just that visual of the whitewater rafting, because if you've ever gone, you know that it can be kind of scary and dangerous. And how familiar is that for us in a blended family? And I was telling Randall when we were talking about this story, just that visual, because it is that group, that team effort that's working together in the raft. And you have to come together and do these things for things to work out, right? But you do have some in the raft that are leading and guiding, and then you have some others doing their part. So there's so many things wrapped up just in that story alone. But as we're planning and preparing for our new year, and how we as parents can be that leader and that guide for our family, directing them in the path that we want to go, but actually, like you're saying, is figuring out what is the things that we want to accomplish this year as a family. What do we want to focus on with our family, and then helping direct them in that. And you can do the opposite, just like Randall's saying, or like that instructor was doing before. You can focus on those negatives, and it pulls everybody's attention to those negatives, and then you do crash and burn, and there is so much like once you fall out of the boat when you're rafting, it's a lot harder to get everybody
Yes.
back in and get things back on course. It's not impossible, but it is a lot harder. So when you have that focus in the right direction, and then another piece, as you were talking right then, is just such a beautiful reminder of us as children of God, and that when we're focusing on the Word of God and what He asks us to do, how it guides us and directs us on that path. And so many times we want to focus on that problem. We want to look at the things that are going wrong in our family, and the enemy wants us to look at those things too. He wants that to be our focus and consume us, and then ultimately destroy us and destroy our family from that. But if we can keep our eyes focused on the Word of God and what He's telling us about our family and what the truth is, then He's the one carrying us through that.
For sure. So it really is focusing is where you're going to go. And focusing is goal setting. So, by setting a goal, that is what you're putting your focus on. And so really for me, for a concept, I'd always heard goal planning, and I'm like, oh, I got to sit down and try to map out what's going to happen in a year, in 3 months and in a year or whatnot. That's impossible because life happens. and that's so true, right? And that was always my mindset. And so I never would. But how damaging that was for me in my younger years, because I didn't have a plan. I just let life happen and just went with the flow and wasn't intentional with anything. And so whenever I could really look at goal setting more as what am I focusing on this year or in short term, right? Because anything under a year is considered short term. So if you're looking at, within this next year, those are short term goals, and we can do so much if we are intentional.
We put some steps.
And as families, we all got stuff. We all deal with problems and issues and things that come up. But it's really, what are we going to allow to pull us together, and what are we going to allow to divide us, right? And, we want to do more things that are pulling us together. And that's whenever we can start shifting our focus and look at the new year and say, you know what? Maybe it's this, or maybe we need to focus more on this for this year, and let that be your focus. And I think another trap that we can fall into is that we want to fix it all. Especially in a blended family. There can be a lot of issues, a lot of different dynamics. Your family's trying to blend together, different personalities, things of that nature. And there can be so many things to try to fix. So we want to fix it all, and we try to do it all in such a short amount of time that we end up failing because we're trying to bite off too much. And then we figure, well, that didn't work. And so we throw that off to the side and say, well, goal planning stinks this year. Didn't work.
Try again it's February. Try again next round. Next January.
But it's the same thing with our, New Year's resolutions that, we want to change all of our bad habits in 1 year. And it's like we set ourselves up for failure. And so that's one thing as we're goal setting, that we do want to make them measurable. We want to make them attainable as well, right? What's the SMART goals?
SMART goal, yes.
Yeah. So that, if you don't know what that is, look that up. SMART goals, that is a goal setting type of planning that businesses and entrepreneur, everybody
we use it in the school system.
Yeah. So, but basically it is making it specific. You are getting specific. You want it measurable. You want it attainable. So, these are just kind of some of the things that you're looking at, because if you try to bite off too much, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting your family up for failure, and you all might go in there thinking, oh yeah, we're going to do so good. And then one little obstacle comes, like life does, and throws you all off track. And then you lose sight of that focus, that goal that you initially had going in that year. And so it can kind of rob you of the joy of family, and then start causing separation that you don't want.
Yeah. And as you were talking about the different personalities too that are creating these goals for your family, and I think it's funny because he's the type of personality where everything is structured and organized. So you would think goal planning would be something that was very natural, something that he would do. And for me, I'm the opposite of that, but I love to goal plan. I love to just look at everything. Like he's saying, I just want to change everything. I want to fix everything. I want to make everything better. I want to lay it out for an entire year. And then it'll bite me in the butt often because it's more than I can actually take on.
Hey, we'll be back momentarily. Check out this announcement. We are so excited to be able to give you our new free guide. You see, one of the hardest parts about being in a blended family are the relationships that struggle to connect or become strained by all the changes.
You can't force someone to love someone else, but you can do little things to connect with them and show them that you care. That's why we created this 1-week guide that has quick solutions to build stronger connections with your family. It's a way that you can start small by focusing on one relationship at a time. And the good news is that you don't have to make big changes. It's the small steps that make the big impacts.
We want you to have this free guide that has 7 ways to grow your relationships in just 7 days. So quit stressing over strengthening your family relationships. Start here by downloading this free guide, Enjoying Your Blended Family, 7 Ways in 7 Days to Connect. You'll be so glad you did. The link to get your free copy is in the show notes of this episode. Now back to the episode.
And then along with that is that when I achieve that goal that I have laid out in front of me, I don't take time in that moment to celebrate what I've done. I just move my goal, my next mark, and I'm constantly chasing after something. And it's like I'm constantly chasing after this happiness because I keep moving my goal line. So it's very important. And that's what we really want you to start with for your family and goal planning for this next year is look back. Let's take some time and look back at this last year and take moments with each of your family members, with your spouse, with yourself, and have a list of things. Either you do it verbally, you write it down, whatever that looks like for you, and think of what are some things that we did accomplish this year. Because as the year goes by and it goes by so fast, or we're so busy, we forget to just take in all of those moments and look and see all the accomplishments. And we really have accomplished a lot more than we realized that we had. And God has given us so many blessings that we don't even realize, maybe because we were in the middle of all the mess, that we didn't notice that it was even taking place. A way I love to do that is look through my photos, look through my Instagram feed, because we put our highlights on there. So all of these moments where things came together, like the moon and the stars and everything just aligned, and you had this peaceful or happy moment with your family. So going through and just looking at those things and then acknowledging that. I think it's so powerful for your kids to be able to acknowledge that with them, because they'll say I didn't do anything this year. I'm a bum or whatever. And to be like, no, do you remember you did this back in February? You achieved this goal during the summer, whatever it is. You got your first job, or you got your first apartment, or you got a pay raise. Our kids are older, so those things
those things apply.
Hopefully your first grader is not doing those same things. But maybe
you won the Did All Your Work award.
Yeah, but maybe they got straight A's, or maybe they made one of the teams they had been trying out for, or was in a school play. Whatever that looks like. They learned how to ride their bike. It could be simple, but things that they actually learned. Every year we are learning something and improving from who we were last year. I would tell my kids in the school all the time, would always tell me, I want to go back to pre-K because it's so easy in pre-K. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's easy for you because you've already learned all that stuff, but they're just now learning these skills, and it's hard for them in the moment. So there's all these things that you and your family have accomplished this year. So take some time and celebrate those.
And I remember so much in the beginnings of our marriage, and a few years in, we didn't do this, and this wasn't, once we started learning this, we started seeing our family go in the direction we wanted it, instead of us becoming divisive and really splitting apart. But I remember many years that we would get to the end of a year and we'd be like, man, we didn't really do just a whole lot, or we weren't able to do this much. And it wasn't until we did start going back through pictures and being like, oh yeah, we did that. Oh, wow. No, I forgot about that. Oh, that was this last year? And we realized many times, we've done this on many years, that no, we've actually done a whole lot this year.
Yes.
And so it is very important to, before you start goal setting, is take that time and look back, reflect on what all your family has succeeded, your wins, your successes, the moments y'all have created together. Kind of celebrate that, and that just gets you in a different mental state as you look forward to planning and goal setting and focusing for the next year. Is it really kind of gets you in that set going, you know what, we got this, things are going to be good, instead of at the end of the year maybe some a life issue just happened or whatnot, and that's your focus, so everything's kind of that negative tone that you're bringing to the table, like, I don't know if it's going to work. But,
or you're looking at last year's goals and thinking, well, crap, I still didn't accomplish that. And you're debating, do I make more goals? Because I didn't even follow through with last year. But you are missing out on all those things that you did accomplish.
Yeah. And so as we're saying this, we're going to kind of give a few little strategies to be able to do that. But as we're saying this, just know that all of this is not a perfect thing. And I think that helps to relieve the pressure. Mm-hmm. That just because you set that goal, that gives you something to aim at. That might mean you're hitting around that target, but you're still aiming at something. You're still heading in that direction. No plan is ever going to be perfect. So if we go into it thinking, well, if we say it and we set it this way, it's got to be perfect. We got to hit there and everything's got to just be smooth. You're setting yourself up for failure. Just know that this is what you're aiming at. And by you doing this is just getting you closer to that mark. If you hadn't done this, you wouldn't be shooting at anything. So, yes. It's so important to know where you're focusing, know where you're setting that goal, but also giving yourself that pressure of saying, it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to keep trying. Mm-hmm. We might fail, we might fall, but what do wise men do? They continue getting back up. They continue dusting themselves off and moving forward, not sitting down in a mess. Right, so we were never made to sit in the valley. Valleys were only made to go through and get to the other side. So, it is.
You're being serious, and you said wise men, and I'm just thinking of like Christmas wise men.
So there we are. Right. There's that moment.
I'm like laughing, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, okay, sorry, I was.
It's like, where is your mind going?
Yes, bringing frankincense and myrrh. Now I got to get out of the Christmas.
Well, we got to make this lighthearted too. Yeah. But anyways, it is so important. It is very important to plan goals for your family. Make them achievable. Make them small. So how do you do it, right? So kind of what we're saying is, first off, starting the process, look back. Look back at all you've accomplished with your family already. So look back, celebrate that, enjoy that, and then start small. Especially if you've never done this before, if goal setting's never been a thing for you, start small. Maybe you're taking one relationship that within your family that you would love to see better results. Maybe you've had more issues this last year and you want to see better results with that relationship. Maybe you want to see that you're blending better. So instead of focusing on the issue, I wish our relationship would get better, what can I do to make it better? What are steps I can do? What's within my control that within this next year is something maybe it's spending more quality time with them, or maybe it's grabbing some resources and learning more or something of that nature. But you start looking at the solution instead of the problem. And so you're starting small. You're saying, well, this year I'm wanting to work on this relationship. Or maybe it's a family as a unit. This year I want our family to work on this, or to head in this direction. And so you take those small goals, and now that you say, okay, well, we want to head in that direction, what's going to help get us there? Is it maybe it's doing something different this year than we haven't done before? Is it us looking at grabbing some information, listening to podcasts, grabbing a hold of a blended family course or some resources that help give us more tools, trips,
ticks,
trips and ticks.
I think you've done that before too.
So yeah, if you want that, but it is more tips and tricks if we want to go in that order, or if you want the trips and ticks, either way. But if you want, maybe it is more of trying to find that and doing some research on that. So you're looking at those, and you're just taking the small steps. Don't try to change your whole family all at once. Or maybe your family's going great too, right? So we can shift it to that. Maybe your family's been doing really good. Maybe your blended family's been coming together and y'all are just looking phenomenal. How can y'all be better? Because we can always do better. We can always be our better selves. We can always show up better for our family. We can always love more. We can always do more, serve more, things of that, right? So what could take me to another level? Maybe this is comfortable, but what could step me up? What could step our family up? Something like that. So, it's these goals of bringing you closer together, pouring in more love, more acceptance, and just drawing you closer as a family. That's kind of, in essence, what we all want in our family, is just to be together, to love, trust, encourage each other. So, take those as some tools that you can use and go do something that fits your family. Maybe you're writing it down and you're putting it where everyone can see it, or maybe you're just talking about it. Maybe it's you and your spouse talking, or you and your kids talking. So, everyone's family looks different at how this could work. But the thing is, am I being intentional? So by doing this, that's making that intentional step. And when you do that, you see such amazing results from that.
Yes, and if you need actual tangible tools to use, we talked about that in episode 37. So you can go back and listen to those, and it's talking about calendars and planners and different ways to organize so that you can all be on the same team. So go back and listen to that. But then also, if you're this is exciting you and you're yes, I can't wait, I want to plan my family goals, we're going to have some upcoming Fun Friday episodes where it gets the whole family involved in on this process. Or if you don't want the whole family and it's just you and your spouse or you and your kids.
Or just you personally.
Just you personally. There's all different mix and matches again, because personalities are different. Not everybody loves to just sit down and do these fun activities. But the more you can get the whole family involved, the better it is. So we have some ideas that we're going to be sharing with you over the next couple of Fridays that I think you will really enjoy, your kids will really enjoy, your spouse, you may even be able to
rope him in.
Yeah, well, I think I was fishing.
You were fishing, reel them in, yes.
Reel them in, yes.
So for the podcast, she was doing a fishing pole.
Yes.
And she was trying to reel me in.
We're reeling the husband in on our little schemes of
To
family enjoyment.
We will all be happy.
Dang it.
So no, use some of these tools, some of these things. We're going to continue throwing ideas out there, but use them. Take them. What fits for you and your family, and use what works, or try something new. But the thing is where you focus on is where your family's going to go. So if you focus on the problem, you're going to see more problems. If you focus on the solutions, you're going to see more solutions. And that's really powerful. And to wrap it up before we close, one thing we always love doing is taking it back to God's words. We know that God wants our families to be blessed. He's called our families to be a blessing. And the thing is, the more we focus on His truth, the more we'll see His truth. And so that's so powerful in our family. So one scripture that just really comes to mind is Proverbs 16:9, that a man plans in his heart his direction, but the Lord helps guide his steps. So that's so powerful that we can plan, we can make these goals, but when we lean on the Lord, He guides us. He starts showing. So maybe you're coming at this saying, I don't even know where to start. Start with Him. Start with prayers. Just start asking God, saying, God, I don't even know. Help give me some light and some direction.
Some years is like that.
It is. And every time that we have gone to Him, just with a simple prayer like that, that's a prayer, right? Just talking to God. But just sitting there saying, God, I don't even know. Show me. And then all of a sudden a thought will come in, or someone will speak something from, some random source, and you're like, man, that's really good, but the Lord will guide our steps, and He guides our steps in so many different ways. So it's always being open and receptive to that, but always go to Him. You can make your plans, but go to Him for those steps, and He will always lead you in the right direction. So,
amen.
Good stuff. So focus. It's all about focus. Where you focus is where you go. So really this year, let it be a year to where your focus is intentional. Focus on the solutions and not the problems. The problems will always be there. Trust us. And we say that, and you probably know, you're like, I know. It's like, I feel like I take one step forward, 2 steps back. But the thing is that we continue moving forward. And the more we move forward, the more we focus on these solutions, the more we're taking 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back. Or we're taking more steps forward and less steps back, right? It becomes easier, and we see so much more of our family coming together and those relationships just, man, being something beautiful.
Yes.
So, good stuff.
Yeah,
Good
very
stuff.
good stuff.
So, y'all be blessed. Have a happy new year, too. Let this be the year. I really feel like this year is going to be one of the best. So, I know we always say that, but we believe it. So, let your family be blessed. This will be your best year yet. Focus on that. Yeah. So, love you guys. We will see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Enjoying Your Blended Family. All the links we've talked about today, they're in the show notes below. If you've enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe below. It's free, and it lets you know when we have another episode for you to listen to.
And if you want to help us out, leave us a rating and review so that we can keep reaching more people. Until next time, remember to enjoy the moment.